Hello and welcome to Talking Europe. My guest today earned a big vote of confidence from the European Parliament earlier this week. Marc Angel, an MEP from Luxembourg, was elected a Vice President of the Parliament in the second ballot with 307 votes, way ahead of his rivals. He takes the spot left vacant by Eva Kaili, who's been held in custody on corruption charges. Marc Angel was recently called a sociable socialist by one Luxembourgish newspaper, and that's probably true on both counts. He's certainly popular with his parliamentary colleagues, and he's dedicated to traditional socialist causes, workers' rights, fighting poverty, helping people with disabilities, tackling gender pay gaps, and drawing attention to LGBT issues. And he joins me from Luxembourg City. Marc Angel, thank you so much for being my guest. Just set out for our viewers, what does a Vice President of the Parliament actually do? Because there's 14 of you.
A Vice President of the Parliament is a team player in a team of 14, as you just mentioned, and we have to chair the meetings, we have to chair votes, we have to replace the President, but the Bureau of the Parliament has different working groups, and every President, Vice President has a portfolio and has to chair one of the working groups, but also participate in working groups of other vice chairs. So there's quite a lot of things to do. This is a parliament of 705 members, thousands of people working for this parliament. So it's important that there is a team that leads that parliament. And I will be one of the 14 vice presidents, so one team member.
Will you be sort of a Mr. Anti-Corruption for the European Parliament?
I think we all have to be champions in anti-corruption and in transparency. I'm a team player. My campaign, I said it very clear, I'm not a messiah. Of course, in these times, the circumstances where I was elected, I know that this is very important. And I have in mind the resolution which was voted in December, which is a real roadmap. And then also the president came out already with 14 proposals. My political group, we have to do homework too, but we also have to help improve the work in the parliament. And we also came up with 15 proposals. And now what counts is to put these 15 proposals or all the proposals on the table into reality. We have to win trust from the citizens again.
And what the timeline is crucial. I mean, you've said that if there's no tangible signs of change by the time the European election campaign begins, that would be a disaster. But first, you have to change the agreement with the Council and the Commission to create this high authority for ethics. So what sort of time frame are we looking at here?
I mean, this is a dossier which is on the table since 2019. The Parliament had voted a resolution in 2021. Now there is no time to lose. And I was happy to hear Commission President von der Leyen in December, in the midst when the scandal came out, that she also said that the Commission is ready now. So there is no time to lose. We have to deliver. We have to tackle this interinstitutional agreement as soon as possible, because time runs and we have to deliver. And we have to come back to normal work too, because we've done good work as the European institutions, as Parliament, and the scandal overshadowed this. So we have to work double hard now. On one side, having more transparency, and on the other side, keeping on the work to make our citizens' lives better.
On the question of alleged corruption, a few days ago, the European Parliament passed a resolution which is actually a first in 25 years, condemning Morocco for the detaining of journalists and political prisoners, according to this resolution. Just wondering, why has the European Parliament taken this step now? Is it related to Qatargate?
I mean, this is an urgency, and this was important, and because we fight as parliamentarians for freedom of press. Here, Morocco has detained a journalist, so this is a no-go. And I think, of course, when the foreign interference, it was about Qatar, but Morocco was also mentioned. Maybe other countries will be mentioned. It's important to us that we discuss with representatives from other countries, but we cannot be bought by representatives from other countries. So I think this resolution was also very important, and I was very happy that my political group also worked very hard to make this resolution a success.
One of the points in the resolution is that the Parliament says it's concerned about allegations that the Moroccan authorities tried to corrupt members of the European Parliament. And some of your colleagues reported that Moroccan officials were present in the Parliament when just before this vote was taking place. Can you confirm that? Did you observe actual attempts to try to influence this vote?
I haven't observed that personally. I was told it by persons that got the same information as you got. And this shows that we have to also be more vigilant who has access to the parliament, that everybody who is there registers, that we as members of parliament, when we meet these people, we have to say who it is and be very clear on it, because transparency is so important when it comes to trust, and we need to regain trust. And that's only possible with the utmost transparency and also accountability of all our work we do.
But the reports that Moroccan officials were actually there, talking to officials of the European Parliament, that suggests that even if the European Parliament doesn't want to continue business as usual, some of these outside players are perfectly willing to continue as they have done up until now. What are you going to do then about these outside players continuing in the same way?
I mean, it's important that we keep contact with the outside. We do not want to lock ourselves into an ivory tower. That would be totally wrong. And lobbying is something positive. If it's important for me to talk to trade unions, to environmentalists, to NGOs, to diplomats, but we have to not be bought by them. Corruption is a no-go, and therefore I think we really have to think the rules, who can enter, how do we declare the presence, etc. So there is a lot of work to be done. There's proposals on the table. There's this excellent resolution we voted in December, and now this resolution has to be, it's a roadmap, point by point, make it into real concrete proposals and change our rules and tighten our rules, build up firewalls, make sure scandals like this cannot happen anymore.
In the last
Become vigilant.
In the last few days, Marc Angel, the European Parliament has also upped the ante on Iran, urging Brussels to list Iran's Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist group. At the same time, the European Parliament is calling for the release of people detained in Iran, including dual nationals, so Europeans who hold European passports as well as Iranian passports. Isn't there a contradiction between those two things? If you're going to try to label the Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist group, you're not going to get these European and Iranian dual nationals out of custody, are you?
Well, I think a regime which kills own citizens and who kills journalists, who kills freedom fighters, who kills women, they are terrorists. You have to name things. We cannot find other words for that. So I think that's why I think it was good that we voted this resolution. On the other hand, it's important also to defend our citizens, our dual citizens. If you have a dual citizenship, these people are also Europeans, and we cannot leave them alone. We have to raise awareness. We have to think of them. We have to give their families and friends. These people have families and friends here in Europe. We have to show that we are standing with them. They're also our brothers and sisters, and we have to raise our voices for them.
Marc Angel, I'd like to talk about some of the social issues that you've championed. I mentioned them in the introduction to this interview. You became the co-president of the LGBTI group in the European Parliament in January 2020. And also in that year, the European Commission put forward a 5-year strategy in relation to LGBTI plus issues. What do you think that strategy has achieved or not achieved in these last 2 years?
Well, first of all, it's very important that Commission President von der Leyen, when she put up her cabinet and her program, said we have to thrive towards a union of equality. And it's gender equality, LGBTI equality, general equality. We have an agenda for people with disability. This is very important. And we must not forget also the intersectional aspect of discrimination. The strategy, the LGBTI strategy, is a good strategy, but we must not forget that Europe cannot legislate in all the fields. There is legislative proposals on the table now for the recognition of parenthood. This is very good. There is a legislative recognition also on the table for other issues. and we really will work hard together to reach this union of equality. Also, I was active also in the Pay Transparency Directive, have this no more gender pay gap between men and women. And when I talk about men and women, it's men and women in all their diversity.
Yeah, and about the gender pay issues, the Parliament, the European Parliament, adopted this work-life balance directive in 2019, which was obviously aimed at improving some of these imbalances between women and men. Again, I just want to ask you briefly, how do you think that directive has been applied? Has it been well implemented since 2019 or not?
Some countries implemented it very well. In others, there still needs to have progress. And I think in a few, it's time now soon for the Commission also to make an assessment on how it was implemented. I think that is very important. All these issues go hand in hand. We had a success also now recently, the Women on Board Directive, that on boards of listed companies, we have to have more balance between the presence of men and women. We know that there is more women coming out of universities or schools than men, so there is enough women there to share competences in the company boards. And I think these are all steps which we have to continue working on, because equality, I think, is very important, a very important issue in politics.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for that very comprehensive view of all these different issues. Marc Angel joining me from Luxembourg City. And that's all for part one of the show. In part two, I'll be talking more about Qatargate with my panel of MEPs. That's coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you.